Hi guys, I'm Amanda, the Botanical Brunette, and welcome to my channel. Oh yeah, it's Hoyas. I am so excited to show you my Hoya collection. I have a crazy trailing plant obsession. Like, I absolutely love trailing plants. Like, they are one of my favorite things ever. Any plant that could climb or trail, I typically vote for trailing because they're just so pretty. I just love kind of curtainy plants. So of course Hoyas would be one of my favorites because they do trail. Now, I have had mild success with Hoyas in my collection. I only have a few, but I will kind of go over and show you and let you guys know what Hoyas I have in my collection, also how to take care of them because it is quite simple, but I do know that there are some Hoyas out there that are a little bit more fussy than others. So I have probably, oh my gosh, probably at least 5 to 6 Hoyas in my wish list right now. They're just constantly, I'm constantly adding Hoyas into my wish list. But they are typically a little bit harder to find. I do know a lot of people who collect Hoyas, almost exclusively. And yeah, they absolutely love Hoyas. But I mean, sometimes they're hard to find. Sometimes they're a little bit, a little bit more expensive. For instance, there's one Hoya that's been on my wish list, and it'll probably be on my wish list for a long time until I can find a good price version, just because I can't justify spending $80 for a 2-leaf cutting. But I have found that the Hoya, it's polyurna or something like that. It's the Hoya fishtail is really what it's known as. But that is number 1 on my wish list. I want that Hoya so bad just because it looks like a little mermaid tail. If you guys have never seen it, go ahead and check that out because they are so pretty. But again, I probably won't have one in my collection for a little while, but that one is also, from what I've been told, a little bit of a finicky Hoya. It doesn't really typically love to kind of be messed around with. It needs a little bit more humidity. It needs a little bit more love and attention than some of my Hoyas that I just kind of put in my collection and they thrive. Hoyas are also really great because not only are they super not needy, most of them, but they're also safe for pets. For those who haven't seen my video on some plants that are safe for pets, go ahead and check that out. I will link that above. If you haven't seen that video, go ahead and check that out. It's a good common houseplants that are safe for pets, and Hoyas are one of them that I was actually pretty surprised about because Hoyas are so sought after and they're so pretty. Of course there's gonna be some kind of flaw with them. So I do have 3 Hoyas that I'm gonna show you today. 2 of them, care-wise, are pretty much the same, and one of them is a little bit different. It's a little bit of more of a sensitive Hoya, kind of like the fishtail Hoya. So I'll kind of go into that, but before we get into that, please like and comment on this video. Let me know what kind of Hoyas that you have in your collection. And also subscribe if you haven't already. I post videos every Wednesday at 3 o'clock. My channel is basically geared toward plants and plant things. I do a lot of DIYs and I do a lot of repurposing things. And yeah, so if you like what you see, go ahead and like and subscribe. And now let's get into it. So let's talk about my very first Hoya that I've ever got. I'm really excited to show you this today because she's producing some really pretty leaves, and that is this Hoya Crimson Queen. Look how beautiful she is. Look at this pink leaf. Can we talk about that for one solid second? That is so pretty. So it just has such pretty variegation, kind of it has white edges onto the leaf, and of course it's trailing. This thing is huge. One thing about Hoyas that people don't typically like is they grow pretty slowly, typically. And again, I'll talk about that in a second. But I found that a lot of the waxy Hoya leaf varieties grow pretty slowly. Even the fishtail Hoya, I've seen a lot of people who have them say that they grow incredibly slow. And of course, it's the plant that you want to grow super fast, right? But since it's now spring and we're in the growing season, this plant all of a sudden just decided to just completely just pop off and start growing. I'm really excited to see like how much this grows and how much I can get this little guy to trail, because how awesome would that be? Like if I could get like a big curtain of these. Oh, dreams come true. So for this Hoya, I have a fast draining, there's a lot of bark, a lot of sand in the soil, so it kind of drains really fast. And it's not gonna hold a ton of moisture because she doesn't like to be wet. This one and my other one that I will show you next. And then I have another Hoya that you probably know about, but I have another Hoya that is not super loving the dryness. But yeah, I let this dry out probably more than I should. This Hoya gets water probably in the spring and summer. I water it about every 2 weeks. And then in the winter, I honestly watered this every like 3 to 4 weeks. You know, like there were some times where I was like, are you sure you don't need water? Because like it's been a while. But yeah, so this Hoya is just like, it's just super good. And I honestly like, she's one of those plants that like you can't forget about her because she's so beautiful and so like eye catching, but also like you forget about her because she's so quiet. Like she doesn't like, she's not needy. She doesn't need a lot of stuff. So like sometimes you don't even know that she's struggling until she's past that point. I have about 2 other offsprings of this. This plant is incredibly easy to propagate. You literally cut a stem, put it in some sphagnum moss, and she's good to go. So yeah, that's my Hoya Crimson Queen, my very first Hoya that I've got. I've had her for about, I want to say I got her about 3 years ago, I think. So yeah, she's grown pretty well in the 3 years that I've had her. And again, I've had her for 3 years and she's only grown this much, so yeah. The next Hoya I have in my collection is a Hoya that you probably already have seen on this channel if you watch my videos, but I can't get over this beautiful like Hoya. I got this Hoya off of Etsy. It was a newer seller that I got it from. It came kind of like, so in my first repot with me, you can kind of see in the video how kind of like dry the leaves were and how dry the roots were, because I guess they just kind of neglected it a little bit. I mean, it's a Hoya, so it can kind of take it. This is my Hoya Pubicalyx Splash. So they have a Pubicalyx version that is not splashy, does not have the variegation on the leaves. But of course, everybody wants that variegation and that kind of like really neat pattern that the leaves get. So a lot of people kind of want the splash versus the regular one, but honestly, like I kind of now want the regular one because I kind of do like boring kind of basic plants. But yeah, this is such an easy plant. It's very similar to the Crimson Queen. It doesn't need a ton of love and care. It will kind of, you know, it doesn't really let you know when you need anything, so you do have to check on it. Any of my plants, any of them, I check them once a week and see if they need any water, and that's just kind of my rule of thumb. But yeah, I mean, and it also kind of grew this like weird guy. He kind of looks like a little tortellini. I have no idea why it grew that way, but it's kind of funny. Like I kind of like him, so I kept him on there, but some people might kind of cut it off just for aesthetic reasons, but I'm like, just leave them on there. But I love how it's trailing. It's just so beautiful. And again, it's also starting to grow like a bunch of new, like you can see a couple like new little buds kind of growing on there and stuff. So really excited to see where this goes, like this like spring and summer, and yeah. So I only have 3 Hoyas in this collection, so it is going to be kind of like a shorter collection video. Hopefully I'll be able to have like a bigger collection soon. I have been eyeballing a couple that they're kind of like just regular, like kind of easy to find Hoyas, But these are the 3 that I have in my collection so far. And last but not least, we have this Hoya Linearis. So this was one of the hardest Hoyas for me to find. This Hoya is a little bit different. If you can see, like, it does not have the waxy leaves. It doesn't have like any of that like weirdness. It's actually like, I don't know if you guys can even see that, but they're like fuzzy. Like each leaf, each like stem, it's like very velvety and very fuzzy and very, I mean, you kind of want to like just pet it all the time. This plant was super small. It was probably about this long when I got it. And I don't know what video it was, but I mentioned it that like I got it for like $30 and my husband was like, what? But it's been super rewarding so far. I feel like after like maybe like midsummer, I might kind of chop and propagate it again just so I get a little bit of a fuller pot, because if you see in there, like I don't have a ton through the back. It's just like I think like 4 or 5 little trailing pieces, and I eventually want like a curtain of these. So hopefully one day we'll get there, but for now I am loving just the little sporadic things. And this Hoya, since I've gotten it, has not stopped growing. It is growing all day, all the time. Like it's just crazy. So care wise, this is a little bit different than the Crimson Queen and the Publicalyx. So basically this will need a little bit more water, a little bit more humidity. It doesn't have those like thick waxy leaves that hold the water. So you'll need a little bit more like water in this, and a lot more humidity than you would give like a normal Hoya. But I have this in a regular kind of like potting mix with a little bit of perlite and also a little bit of coco coir to kind of help keep the moisture in there. But yeah, this Hoya has constantly rewarded me with new growth and everything, so super excited about that. So yeah, those are my Hoyas. This is my Hoya collection. So I like absolutely love trailing plants, and again, like of course Hoyas would be on my list for favorites, and also they're super easy to care for, and that is like my biggest thing is like I need to find plants that are easy to care for, that if I leave for like a month-long trip, that, you know, they might need to be watered. They might have to have like someone stop by and water them like once or twice, but I don't have to constantly worry about them, which I'm also terrified. So if anybody has any, like, because, you know, my husband and I have been talking about taking a vacation at some point, you know, ever, and I don't know what to do like with all my plants. So if anybody has any like tips or tricks on that, or you know, have any ideas, let me know. So yeah, Hoyas are absolutely like the best like ever. If you are a beginner plant parent, Hoyas would be a good start. I would start with the Crimson Queen or the Pubicalyx because they are a little bit more of a non-needy Hoya. But yeah, they're pretty simple to care for. They're pretty easygoing, and they can live in a lot of different, you know, temperatures and stuff like that. All my Hoyas are under grow lights except for my Crimson Queen. She is under a table in my southeast facing window. So she gets, and the table is a glass table, so she gets like really filtered light through the table. So, you know, she does get a good amount of bright light, but the other 2 are in grow lights, so they're fine. 12 hours of grow lights and they're growing like crazy. Well, that's it. Comment below and let me know kind of like what Hoyas you have in your collection, or maybe what Hoyas you have in your wish list. I hope you guys all have a great day, and